Hey guys, this is Black Bolt. My name is Alan. Hope everybody is doing well. Today we're going to talk about the whys of getting debt-free. As most of you guys know, my wife and I are debt-free. We became debt-free, I believe it was in July of this year, after paying off over $144,000 of debt. And it's something that comes up every now and then in our lives. People have conversations with us about it. And my wife had a conversation with some friends recently, and it turned into a pretty good debate about why would you go through the struggle of becoming debt-free. And for my family, it was a struggle because we are not really that high income earners. We do make good money now, but when we started in the journey, we didn't really make that much money, especially when you look at it compared to $140,000 worth of debt. Our income wasn't that high. My wife has always worked part-time or not at all. One of the things that I wanted when I turned 17 was to be in a family situation where my spouse wasn't working, or at least not working full-time. And the reason for that is simply that when my parents moved here, or when my family moved here from England. My family's from Uganda, but we left Uganda a long time ago, and then we moved to England for a few years. My dad came to Minnesota, and then me and my siblings and my mom came to Minnesota to be with him afterwards. But my parents worked a lot. They went through very challenging times in their lives working for us to put us in a position to be where we are today. But that meant that while they were working at their jobs, whether in the beginning it was just whatever they could do to make money, and then it became corporate jobs. My mom is a nurse. My dad is a nurse today, but at the time he was a journalist, and then he went into the corporate world. And while they were doing that, they were also studying. So as you guys know, I work my 9-to-5 job, and then I do side hustles afterwards so that my family's in a better position than we would be otherwise. So I got that work ethic from my parents, but growing up, I did not want to be in a similar situation where I was working basically from when my kids went to school to dinner time at around 9 or 10 p.m. Both of my parents were at work. So when I graduated from college, I graduated with probably around $80,000 of student loan debt. I didn't know exactly what that number was until one day my wife asked me where all of our money went. At the time, I don't think she was working yet, but we had our first baby, and basically every single dollar that we brought in went out. And so she was asking me, where does all of our money go? And that's the point where, and we got married about 7 or 8 years after I had finished college, so I had been paying on these loans religiously for a really long time. But that was the point where I opened up the accounts and started figuring out the actual total amount. And there had been times in the past where I had gotten out of credit debt and got back into credit card debt. I bought a BMW out of college, I paid it off, I did something stupid and I sold it to someone I shouldn't have, and they got in an accident and they never finished paying me. That's a lesson in not doing business with friends and family. And I foolishly financed another BMW after paying off the first one. I don't regret it, but it's something that I would definitely recommend you don't do. I generally don't regret things that happen in my life. I do learn from everything that happens in my life, whether it's learning what not to do again, learning what's neutral, or learning what to do more of. I believe that you can take a lesson out of absolutely everything that happens. So if you're going through challenging times right now, you can use that as a motivation to advance your life forward. Just one of the things that I always, when we were going through the struggle, is I always thought about what's life going to look like when we have all of this extra money back. So that's, to me, that's the number one reason to get, well, to me, the number one reason to get out of debt is because the Bible says that the debtor is slave to the lender. And so I don't want to be a slave to anybody. And I experienced a crazy situation at work a few years ago where basically I had a manager lie to me and they blamed me for somebody else's non-performance. And at that time, because we had so much debt, we were living paycheck to paycheck, I could not quit this job, so I had to stay there and work for somebody who I didn't want to work for. And I made it a personal goal to never again in my life be in a situation where somebody else had that much control over my family. And so that's when we really got serious about this getting out of debt journey. And the number 2 reason for us for getting out of debt is just to be in control of all of our money. Having money gives you choices. Like I mentioned, choices in where to work and who to work for. If you work for somebody you don't want to work for, and you don't need the entire paycheck to survive, you can go and look for other jobs. But I was in a situation where, because of my salary and the level where I was at, whenever I went and applied to other jobs, I got to interviews, we would get to the point where they asked, how much money do you want to make? And they would tell me what the position paid, and the position did not pay as much as my job at the time. And so I could not accept the position, even though it was a position that I wanted, and it was a position that potentially had a bigger shovel down the line. But I needed to eat this month. I needed my family to eat this month. We got to a point where, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I knew the exact day that we would run out of money. I knew that on November 20th, we would not have money to take us until the end of the month. And that was kind of devastating for me as a husband and as a father. And as somebody I met my wife in Uganda, and she came over here, and we were going to have this great life. And now we just couldn't do anything. We couldn't get ahead. We weren't even going to be able to make our bills. And we kind of had something miraculous happen, which ended up covering our bills for the rest of that month. And then we got our money situation straight. We got our expenses in order so that after that month we would still be able to cover our bills. But it was kind of a traumatizing time for us. But anyway, the ability to control our paychecks is really important. Some people are comfortable with seeing money leave their pockets basically every single month, and I guess it's part of the American culture where if you're having payments go out all the time, you just become numb to them and you don't even know. And that's basically what I had been doing for the first few years after graduating college. Is I would get paychecks. I have everything set to auto draft, and money would come in, money would go out. Sometimes there was money left over at the end of the month, sometimes there wasn't. But that's just the life that most people live. And that's kind of the debate that my wife and her friends were having was, well, if you just set your stuff on auto payment, it's not that stressful. Money comes in, money goes out. And to my wife and I, we're like, wouldn't you want all of that money that you're making in payments? Don't you want that money to come into your life and to stay in your life? And so that's why we got out of debt, is because we got tired of seeing thousands of dollars leaving our checking account every month, and we got absolutely nothing out of that money. Another thing is, when you owe over $100,000 in debt, you send in your payment, the majority of your money goes into interest, and your principal barely reduces. So if you don't make a concerted, intentional effort to get out of debt, if you don't send in extra payments, you are going to be in debt forever. And if you use credit cards, take a look at your credit card statement. It calculates out for you how long it will take you to get out of debt if you pay just the minimum payment. And that number is usually 25 to 30 years. And for my wife and I, we just did not want to do that. So today we're in a position where we're debt-free. We have control of our money. We have options when it comes for ways to make income. I'm in a very good position with my job, and I like my job. I work at home. The hours are good. It's very flexible. If I need to take time off during the day to accomplish something, I can do that, and it's not a big deal. So long as I get all of my work done, I get paid for it. And then of course I also have time to make YouTube videos in the evening, because I'm in a situation where I'm pretty efficient with my work, so I don't need to be at my desk from say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's also a situation that I was in the past, and I was salaried and I wasn't making any extra money for the extra effort that I put in. And that really sucked. It was really frustrating, and that was another reason that I wanted to leave that position, but I couldn't because I needed the money, because we had so much debt that needed to be paid. So those are just some of the reasons that we decided to get out of debt. And then now, having control of our cash flow, we are in a position where we are going to be able to build a new home, which I am really grateful for. I thank God for the position that He has put us in. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I do not believe that I would be in a position that I'm in today without Him having control over my life. And I gave my life to the Lord back in 2014, and that was a really exciting, really amazing experience for us. For my wife and I, and my sister got baptized on the same day that I did, and it was just tears all around. So we are going to be building a new home on an 1.5 acre lot, which I am very excited about. Not so much that we're building a new home, but I'm excited about it for my kids. My wife and I, being African immigrants, it's just amazing that we are in this position where we're going to be able to build this amazing home, and our kids are going to grow up on a huge property, and we're showing them that if you work hard, you can actually achieve the goals that you set in your life, and if you live your life the correct way, you can do things in this life. So this is a really interesting neighborhood. So all of these lots are at least an acre and a half. Some of them have more space in the back than others. There's a beautiful home on my left here that's really interesting color. It's like a dark black or slate color. Really gorgeous. Leave that farmhouse right in front of us might belong to the person who originally owned this entire area. It used to be a farm, but unfortunately with the tariffs, that kind of killed farming a few years ago. A lot of farmers have had to sell their properties, so whenever they get an opportunity to, they'll sell them to developers, and then the developers build out these new neighborhoods. But our current home is a pretty nice home. It's 5 bedrooms, 4 bath, but our backyard has an easement in it, and so our kids really don't have that much space to play right now. And as they're getting older, we want them obviously to be able to play outside as much as possible, and we want to be one of the houses where our kids can bring their friends to play. So we would rather have them under our roofs than being out and about in neighborhoods and we don't know where they are. So we're raising our kids in an environment where they feel safe to be with us. They can talk to us about anything, and we want to be the go-to for them and their friends. Whenever something comes up, they can come to our house, they can feel comfortable, they can play. So we're going to buy some ATVs. We're probably eventually going to buy a boat. So that's where a truck will come in useful. My wife is also transitioning her career. Right now she is part-time sales for a retailer, and she's really good at that, but she is working on becoming a real estate agent, and that will open up some other doors for us so far as raising our income and giving us more freedom to be able to live the lifestyle that we want and to be in more control of our time. And that's the big thing for me now. It's not so much about making money, but it's more being in control of our time and being able to do the things that we want to do. And one of my goals when I was younger, and now it's a goal for both my wife and I, since she's also from Uganda, is to be able to go back whenever we want to, especially in times like these when right now it's 10 degrees outside, but it was negative, I think around -10 when I woke up. So we want to be able to go to Uganda and spend some time in the warmth over there and to be with our families. My parents live here, but the rest of my extended family lives over there, and her entire family still lives over there. But so we're going to be building a home, and our home is actually going to be smaller than our current home, but it's going to be on a larger property, and we have gone through all of our selections, and it's going to be a nicer house on the inside than the current house that we live in. Basically, it's going to be better quality materials. We picked a pretty small custom builder. I think they build around 40 houses a year, so not too many. And for comparison, our home right now is built by a tract builder called Capstone, and Capstone builds approximately 400 homes a year. And we had talked to them about potentially building our home. They had some floor plan models that we liked, but the way that building new construction works is usually you'd have to sell your home to get the equity out of it, to buy the land, and to use that as part of your down payment. And the builder that we're working with isn't requiring us to do that. So they are actually financing the whole deal. We gave them earnest money, which is another blessing of not being in debt. So when we found a lot and we picked the builder, we were able to write them a check for the earnest money. But anyway, this builder is carrying the cost of the lot and materials through the construction process. And then once we close, we'll close on our current house and this house on approximately the same day. So once we close, we'll just transfer the money to them, and they'll transfer this property to us, and we'll be done. But we're super excited. This house is going to be about 33 to 3,400 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, with a completed basement, and it's going to be a 2-story house. And we're just excited about this whole process. It's been a really fun process for my wife and I. A lot of couples talk about how hard it is to go through the building process. I think that because we've been mentored in marriage and in life and in finances, we have just really enjoyed this process. We've not had any arguments about money. We've gone over budget on a couple of things, and we just talk about it. Is this something that we're comfortable going over budget on? Do we want to pay it out of pocket, or do we want to add it to the mortgage? And in our case, because we're debt free, we are trying to keep our mortgage as small as possible. So for everything that we can, we are going to be paying the builder in cash. I guess it's the same as using it as a down payment, but there's some things like our EVSE. I spoke to our electric company, and we want to get a receipt for that directly from electric guys. So we are going to be paying our builder directly for that when we get to the electrical stage of our build, and they will give us a receipt, and then that won't go on our mortgage. So super fun, super exciting. Now let's just go and take a quick look at the lot. It snowed recently, and I don't know how thick it is, and I'm in sneakers, but we've been told that it's actually a good thing that there's snow on the ground, because that keeps the ground insulated and warm. So let's take a look at just this front part of the lot, but it's super cool, really exciting. So our lot starts from about here, and it goes out to that post out there. I don't know if you can see it, but we are about 155 feet wide and approximately 350 feet deep. And I'm gonna walk up there through this thick snow. Our name is on a post here, so I'm not gonna show you that, but it's pretty cool. We have an address already, and you can see that they've already started preparing it. That's all ours down there. So walking up, they are planning on starting to dig in early February, which we're really excited about. So you can see there are posts set up here. Looks like where they're going to be digging. And this is technically a rural area, so we're going to have well and septic, and Lot goes back to the orange perimeter. I don't know if you can see it on here with the camera, especially with the sun in the background, but it is beautiful out here. We just love being out in these semi-rural area. So moving from Ramsey, but not too far away, and our kids are going to be in the same school district but different elementary school. But if they end up staying in the public school system, then they'll still meet up with their friends for middle school and high school, but we're going to keep them in the same activities so long as they want to be in the same activities, and keep their same friends. So it's not that far of a move. We are still approximately the same distance from the Twin Cities. You can see there's a nice little dip here. Looks like somebody has been playing on an ATV right there. But this will make a nice sledding hill for our kids. This is all still our property until actually when it starts sloping up again, it's still our property. So this is really cool. This little area is going to be managed by the HOA. We do have an HOA out here, but it's pretty $50 a month or something like that. It's basically has restrictions so that the homes are built in a particular way, but they don't really have land use restrictions. The only thing that animal that you can't have out here is horses, large animals like that. But we're pretty excited about this process. Our mortgage isn't going to increase that much from our current mortgage, just because home prices in our area have shot up like crazy. A lot of people have decided that they don't necessarily want to live right in the middle of Minneapolis or St. Paul, and so they're moving out to these rural areas, and we just were blessed by moving out here before everybody decided it was a good idea. And we tried to find land in Ramsey, but we weren't able to find a lot that was within our budget and of the size that we wanted to. So 10 minutes north of where I am is a city called Oak Grove, and so that's in the direction we're facing right now. We could have found 3 to 5 acres for a little bit less than we paid for this lot, but we did not want to be in that school district, and so we decided to pay a little bit more to be in a little bit of a nicer neighborhood, just a little bit closer to town. And this is going to be it's as far north as our current home, but it's more centrally located. So instead of being 15 minutes from groceries and stuff, we are going to be approximately 7 to 10 minutes away from groceries. So it's a really good location. My wife really preferred this location over the Oak Grove locations, where aside from the schooling issue, it's just more centrally located and closer to things. And we might send our kids to private school. Right now, one of our daughters is in a private Christian school, and we're thinking of sending our 2 older daughters there too, but obviously it's more expensive for real school than it is for preschool. And those are things that we would not be able to do if we were in debt and sending all of our income to credit card companies. And last thing about that, if you drive into any major city in the United States, the tallest building is usually owned by banks and insurance companies. So instead of making them rich, just make your family rich. And if you're one of those people who says that you don't really need that much money, that's okay. Make a bunch of money, and instead of sending them to your favorite banker, send them to charities. My wife and I now sponsor a kid in Ethiopia, and that's something that we wouldn't have been able to do if we were sending money to banks. So there are a lot of things that you can do with money. So get debt free, get in control of your life. For most people, if you're serious about it, you can get debt free in 2 to 3 years, and that is a really short time to work really hard in order to set up your life. But our goal, once we have this house built and once we move in, is to pay it off within 10 years, so that when our oldest daughter turns 18, we can cash flow her school so that she doesn't have to go into student loan debt And obviously we're going to be talking to her about getting good grades and getting scholarships so that she doesn't need student loans. Anyway, hope everyone is doing well. Love you all. Just wanted to share this exciting news and also talk about why it's so important to be debt-free. Have a great week.